All right, good afternoon. Welcome to Common Ground. The next talk that we have is called Have You Distributed Randomness by Yolan Romailler. Before we begin, we'd like to thank our sponsors, especially our Inner Circle sponsors, Critical Stack and Valley Mail, and our stellar sponsors, Amazon, the National Security Agency, and Secure Code Warrior. It is with their support, along with our other sponsors, donors, and volunteers that make this event possible. These talks are being streamed live, and as a courtesy to our speakers and audience, we ask that you check to make sure your cell phones are set to silent, and we will do questions at the end. And if you have a question, I will bring the audience microphone, which I am holding, over if you raise your hand, and this is so YouTube can hear you. And with that, let's get started. Welcome, Yolan.
Thank you. So hello everybody. So today I'll be talking about distributed randomness. So a little who am I maybe? So I'm Yolan from Tuscany Security in Switzerland, not to be mixed with Sweden. It's not the same country at all. We got chocolate and they got IKEA. Anyway, I'm mostly a cryptographer, so I'm doing cryptography on a daily basis at Tuscany Security, working on code audits and other fun cryptography things, sometimes blockchains, but anyway. Also, I like to play CTF. I saw there was a nice CTF next door, but couldn't try it today, but anyway. So, the agenda for today. I thought it was a 20-minute talk, so since it's instead 1 hour, I will just say everything 3 times, so you will really get everything, right? So I'll briefly cover the idea of distributed randomness, and then I will discuss drand, which is a software implementing the concept we'll cover first. And at the end, there won't be any questions, since I will have said everything 3 times, right? So what's randomness? I don't know if it's something you ask yourself sometimes, but as a cryptographer, when we say randomness, usually we mean binary strings. And it's actually equivalent to saying random numbers, because you can cast a binary string to a number and vice versa. So anyway, so I've pulled a couple random strings on the slide. So do they look really random to you? Well, not really, right? But that's the thing with randomness. Any string of a given length is as probable as any other string of the same length. So you cannot really know if I draw those at random or not. What might be, a bit telling here is that they look really like easy to compress. And their Kolmogorov complexity is not so high. I mean, the entropy of the strings doesn't look high. So it's probably not random, right? Anyway, so what do we do with randomness? Good question. So we do a lot of cryptography, actually, a lot of protocols, be it signature scheme, encryption, Diffie-Hellman, TLS, everything is using random numbers, usually in cryptography. But beside cryptography, we also need randomness for other purposes, such as, lotteries, election, if you want to choose at random somebody, and yeah, computer games, because you don't want the same monster to spawn at the same place every time you play the game, right? Next is the idea of distributed and verifiable randomness. So what is it exactly? What do I mean? So I will just take an example for shared randomness or distributed randomness. So if you take the Tor network, actually if you want to hide the hidden services correctly, you don't want people to be able to do popularity attacks against them and so on. What's happening in Tor is that they generate a new random value every day, and it's relying on that shared random value for the whole network to hide the services as they want. And another couple examples from the blockchain space, because blockchain is usually, distributed, and so distributed randomness obviously means more to them. If you want to do sharding, so you take a lot of nodes or master nodes whatsoever, and you want to select the one that will maybe mine the next block, for example. What happens in some cryptocurrencies or blockchain technologies is that you shard the network into shards, and you want to do it at random so that you are sure there is no, malicious shard or whatsoever. And you need to do it in a distributed way on the network so that everybody agrees with what's happening. Other example could be smart contract lotteries, but anyway. What's verifiable randomness? So it's a random value that you can check has been randomly selected. So why is it important? I don't know if you know about the NIST dual EC DRGB problem. It was an elliptic curve parameter selection which was biased somehow, and random parameters were not that random, so it allowed them to have some nice attack. And in that case, if we had been able to verify the random values had been generated really at random, we would have been able to prevent such things. So people sometimes just take, the hash of 0, the hash of 1, the hash of 2, and so on, until they find a random value, or at least a value that looks random, so that it works for their purpose. But so it's an example of how you could generate such, values. But anyway, verifiable random function got IETF draft, so you can check it out. It's cool, and we'll be discussing a bit more about it later. What's happening? Okay. So, as we can see, there is a need for random values, there is a need for distributed and verifiable randomness. So, there is probably also a need for a randomness beacon that would, provide you with random values that are distributed or generated by a distributed network and that are verifiable, so you can trust them in a public way. And what do we want these randomness beacons to do is, well, basically be unpredictable, bias resistant, verifiable, decentralized, so that no single entity could, bias the values, and available, so that whenever you need randomness, you could, ping one of the randomness beacons, and they would give you some random value that has these properties. And there were randomness beacon back in 2011, I think. NIST released its very own randomness beacon. And there is also this website, random.org, which is providing random values publicly. But the problem with those sites and services were you had to trust a single third party, be it NIST or random.org or whatsoever. And it's maybe something you don't really want to do, like nobody, not everybody like NIST. So the idea we'll be discussing today is drand. It's a software which is implementing all those nice properties we've seen in a way that allows you to run a network of random beacons that provide all those nice features. So drand is an open source software which is nice, and its goal is primarily to provide public randomness. It can also provide private randomness, but then you need to trust the beacon you are asking, you are querying, but it's a detail. So what the main goal of drand was really to make it so that fetching a random value that's verifiable, has been generated in a distributed way by multiple parties and so on, is as easy as fetching time on an entropy server, and that's really the goal of the drand beacons. So a bit of history maybe. So everything, as I said, started in, not everything, but in 2011, NIST started a random beacon, and there was not much happening between 2011 and 2015 when Eva Sita, a researcher, together with the DEDIS team at EPFL, so EPFL is the engineering school of Lausanne in Switzerland, started working on scalable bias-resistant distributed randomness, which gave a paper published in 2017. Next, in 2017, what happened is that the same team of researchers started working with the Dfinity blockchain team. And it's a really important point here. They integrated the pairing library, which had been developed by Dfinity, into the DEDIS Kyber library. And next, in September of the same year, Nicolas Gailly, who is the creator of drand, the main programmer, main developer, who was at the time a PhD student at EPFL, started coding drand, the software, using the Kyber library, which is just a library of cryptographic primitives meant to ease the process of implementing cryptographic protocols. So in 2018, there was a nice blockchain summer school at EPFL. A lot of people came here, and we met with many other people there, and we decided to, team up and run a randomness beacon network together with Cloudflare, NIST, EPFL, Protocol Labs, a couple other people, University of Chile also, and so on. And in June of 2019, so around, I think it was 1 year after the summer school, we finally published and released drand and launched the League of Entropy, which I'll cover at the end of my talk. So drand and its network is currently running. So I will deep dive a bit into the theory behind drand. So what does it do? How does it work? Why does it work? So it's mostly based on the paper I mentioned earlier, but it's always taking the simpler path whenever it can. So in the paper, a lot of different techniques are discussed, and drand really tries to make things as easy as possible. So drand has a couple building blocks, which I'll cover. So I won't be covering all of these, but it's just, so I can discuss cryptography because I like it, and also so you get an idea of what's going on. So I will be discussing today the four first points. So that's the verifiable secret sharing, the Pedersen's distributed key generation. I'll cover really quickly pairing-based cryptography, especially the BLS signature scheme and how it enables you to do threshold signing. And then drand also features resharing, and it's using ECES, so elliptic curve integrated encryption scheme to provide private randomness if you want to use that feature, but it's not really the main purpose of drand, so I won't be covering private randomness today. So, secret sharing. I don't know if you've ever heard about it or not. I will try to cover it fairly simply. I know it's a wall of text, but it's just so that you can read it at home if you want to come back to it. So secret sharing, the base idea is really that you just need 2 points on a plan to define a line uniquely. And if you got 3 points, it's defining a parabola. You got 4 points, it's defining a cubic, and so on. And that's a really nice feature of polynomials. And the idea behind secret sharing is that you've got a secret you want to share into multiple shares between shareholders, and what you really want is that it requires at least T members of a group of N people so that they can reconstruct the secret. Actually, it's not people, it's shares. So you want to be able to basically say, okay, we are 5 people, 5 shareholders, we are splitting the secret into 5 shares so that at least 3 shares are required to build, to reconstruct the secret we are sharing. And it's a really nice idea. I got a little picture on the next slide to explain it a bit more. And there are a couple catches though. The dealer has to be trusted because the dealer, which will be providing the shares to each member of the group, has to know the secret so he can construct the polynomials he needs to construct in order to do the secret sharing. And also, if the dealer is malicious, that could lead to problems. So there is another kind of secret sharing scheme, which are called VSS, so verifiable secret sharing, which are basically enabling the shareholders to verify the shares they've been generated in a way that's non-malicious. And that's really nice. So how does it really work? Secret sharing, so the laser pointer is not working, so I will just move around. So you got 4 points here, which are uniquely defining the dashed curve. And the secret you want to share between every shareholders is basically the value of the curve at the point 0. So that curve is a polynomial. And these points here are the share that each shareholder holds. So the blue one is the point a given member holds, and so on for the other points. And whenever you want to reconstruct the whole secret, so find the value of the polynomial f at point 0, f of 0, what you need is just basically the value of each point, and then you do a Lagrange interpolation, which is giving you those nice polynomials which cancel out in each point of the other values, but that's a detail. And out of those polynomials, you can interpolate the main dashed line and find again the value of the polynomials and then evaluate it in 0 to find the actual secret. So that's roughly the idea. So what can we do with secret sharing? Good question, right? So we can do a lot of things like share a secret between multiple members, or make it so that no single entity is able to sign a given file using the main key or whatsoever. But one of the nice things we can do is a distributed key generation. So distributed key generation is a way to thresholdize. So basically to make it so that when you want to do digital signature or asymmetric encryption or whatsoever, the secret you are using to do the operation you want to do is shared between multiple members, and you only need a subset of the members to be able to reconstruct the actual secret. And how does it work? Well, drand is using the Pedersen distributed key generation, which is based on the verifiable secret sharing scheme we've seen before. And the idea here is really that you will be running multiple secret sharing scheme in parallel. So that's a slide from Nicolas Gailly at EPFL. I've stolen it, which is explaining really well how it works, the distributed key generation. So what's happening is basically that each member of the group can be a dealer of the secret sharing scheme. And so each member has a chance of being malicious or not, but we expect in the threat model that there are no more than half of the members of the team which are malicious. And everybody is is doing the secret sharing, and everybody is receiving n shares, okay? Well, what you can do then is just basically sum the points you got from everybody, and through another Lagrange interpolation, you will get a new polynomial, and nobody will know on its own the value of the secret, because the secret is always the value of the first coefficient of the polynomial, because if you take f1 of x, evaluated at 0, the x will cancel out all the other elements, coefficients, except for the first one, the secret. So each node has generated a secret, and then at the end you sum everything together basically by because each member will sum its own share. And what's happening is that the final secret is unknown. Nobody knows what it is. But we are able to reconstruct that secret when we work together using Lagrange interpolation to reconstruct the actual polynomial we need. And that's really awesome because it means we have a way to create a key that nobody will know, but that we can use together. So how do we use that key? Good question, right? So we use it using pairing-based cryptography. So I need to explain a little bit what's a pairing first. So pairing-based cryptography is quite new, and it's really nice because it's working with pairings. So what's a pairing? So a pairing is a map that is mapping two elements of the groups G1 and G2, which are additive groups, onto another group, GT, which is a multiplicative group. And it's mapping those elements in a way that is similar to a linear function, so except a pairing has two inputs, so it's bilinearity that we want. So what does it mean, bilinearity? It basically means that whenever you have the function, the pairing E of two elements P and Q, if you multiply any of the two elements with a given value, the end result will also be multiplied linearly by the same value. And if you multiply both values, both input value at the same time, the output value will be multiplied by both. And there is just a trick. Since we're working on a multiplicative group, we need to use exponential notation. But anyway, math. So the pairing also needs to be non-degenerated. It just means it must not map everything to one, because otherwise it's kind of useless, right? And for practical purposes, we want the pairing to be efficiently computed by a computer so that you can actually use it in practice. So pairings are really nice beasts, and they are usually constructed by researchers in universities, so we won't be generating new ones or whatsoever. We just use what's existing. And when do we use pairings? Well, we will use them to do digital signatures. So do you recall digital signatures? It's all about having, in the case of public key cryptography, because you can have signatures using HMAC for symmetric key. But anyway, in the case of public key cryptography, it's all about you have a keeper, a secret key, and a public key. You keep the secret key for yourself, you release the public key, and whenever you have a file or something you want to sign, you use your secret key to sign the file and produce a signature that you can release and that anybody can verify has been generated using your secret key by checking it's verifying under your public key. And it's really nice because So what we want with signatures is that it's not easy to forge a new signature out of an old signature, because otherwise, you know, I got a message, I release a signature, and some adversary want to sign, I don't know, the double of my message. If you could just take my signature, double it, and publish it, it will be meaningless, because anybody could forge signatures. So we want signatures to be difficult to forge, and we also want the signatures to be so that it's impossible to recover the secret key out of the public key, the message, and the signature, obviously. So there is a signature scheme which is called BLS by the name of its author. It has been published in 2004 by Bonnell, Lim, and Chasham. So BLS was part of Lin PhD thesis, and it's using pairing cryptography. It's using pairing-based cryptography to produce signatures. And BLS has actually a couple of really nice features because thanks to the pairing and the bilinearity of the pairing, it enables you to do signature aggregation. So you can like when you got Bitcoin and you want to sign all those transactions and then you want to sign the whole block, it's a bunch of signatures, it's taking a lot of space. Well, with BLS, you can aggregate signatures into a single signature, which verify only if all the other one verifies, which is nice. And it also enables, using the bilinearity of the pairings, the threshold signing. So that means if you got a group of n people, you just need t people in the group to sign something, the same thing, with their share of the key, so that at the end the signature is valid for the whole group, for the public key of the group, of the whole group. And finally, it's a detail, but for drand it's actually important. The signatures are well distributed over the signature space. Here, the space, it just means the group onto which we map with the pairing. But so a little picture maybe. So here on the right, you can see G, which is a generator of an elliptic curve, and we have a private key pk. So what we do is we multiply the generator by pk to get a public key, which we can release, and everybody can know the value of P, the big P, which is a point on the elliptic curve. And whenever we want to sign a message, we will take the hash of the message, which has to hash on the elliptic curve, but there are a couple of tricks actually to make it so that whenever you hash something, you are sure it will arrive on the curve. And when you sign a message M, you take the hash of the message on the curve, it's a point, and then you multiply that point using the same private key you use to publish your public key, and you release the value S, which is another point on the elliptic curve. And whenever you want to verify the signature, what you do is basically, thanks to the pairing, you verify that the pairing of P, the public key, together with the hash of the message, is equal to the pairing of G, the generator, together with the signature you released. And why does it work? Well, because of the bilinearity of the pairing, you can see here, you get the public key P, which is the private key times G, the generator, and the hash of the message. But thanks to the bilinearity, the P key here can be moved on the other side, which is equal to the pairing of G and the public key times the hash of the message, which is S. So whenever that is holding, it means you have really been signing the message you want to sign using your secret key, which corresponds to the public key you released, which is P. So maybe that gives you a better idea of why pairing are so nice. So now, threshold BLS. So the idea here is, as I said, that you have your shared secret between all members, the n members, and you have a threshold T decided during the key generation. And whenever you want to sign a message, you just need each member of the group to sign the message using its share. Because what's really nice here with BLS and the DKG is that the secret, the shares that every shareholder is holding can actually be used just if it were a regular BLS secret key. So you can use your share to sign a message and get a valid signature under your share. And when you combine all those signatures, those partial signatures together, using Lagrange interpolation again, you will get a new value, which will be actually the signature for the whole group. And that is really nice. It's a property which is not really, which we can't find really often in practice. So being able to sign together a message without needing everybody to reconstruct the secret first and use the secret we reconstructed is really nice, because it means the secret here, the main secret, is never in memory on any machine. It's always hidden behind the computations. So why do we need it, all those elements? Well, we need it in order to run drand. And how does it work, drand? So drand need to be set up first. So this phase is really expensive because you need to run the distributed key generation, which is running a lot of secret sharing between all the nodes and so on. So it's a O of n square process, which is a bit expensive if you remember your algorithmic classes. And it doesn't really matter because you just need to run it once. And once you've run the setup, every node of the network, which is running drand, will hold a secret value Si, which is its own share of the main secret, which is still hidden. Nobody knows about the main secret. Everybody knows about its very own share. And the public key of the whole group. So P here is actually S, the main secret, times the generator. And that's everything you need then to be able to run drand afterwards. So whenever you want to generate randomness, what's happening is that you will take the signature of the current round together with the previous signature and output it. Because I have said the signature using BLS is uniformly distributed on the signature space, which is nice. And it also means that it's a chain of randomness, so you can verify the signatures, they are verifiable, and you can check they come from where they were supposed to come from, which is also nice. There is a trick here because I said the signature is uniformly distributed on the signature space, which is not the same as being distributed randomly on 2 to the 256 space. So it's not random bytes, not yet. But what you can do to transform the signatures into random bytes is once you verify the signatures, you can simply hash it, and it will map on random bytes because the signatures are uniformly distributed and the hash functions have properties which are guaranteeing it's not possible to predict the values and so on. So currently it's not hashing it, drand, but in the next version we will be directly hashing the value so that you can directly use the value output by drand. So I was speaking about chaining the randomness in rounds. So what do I mean? So it's not a blockchain because we got no blocks. But basically what we are doing is we take seed, which is just a random Elvis quote, and for the first round, everybody in the group will sign that seed together with the value of the index, which is 0. And for the next round, the round number 1, everybody in the group will take the previous signature, which we just got, and sign it concatenated with the round index, which is now 1, and so on. And that's basically a chain of randomness, which you can check at any time is coming from the previous values, and that's nothing fishy is happening behind the hood or whatsoever. And the guarantees here are provided by both the fact you can verify the BLS signatures, but also by the fact that you can verify the chain of randomness. And that's it for the generation of randomness. So what's the features of drand? So as you can see here, drand is achieving its goal of being decentralized, available, under the threat model that's no more than half of the nodes are malicious, and also under the assumption that at no point there are less than T nodes available, because you need to sign using T nodes. But that's a detail. You can set the parameters as you want, so it's easy to achieve. It's unpredictable, unbiased, thanks to BLS. It's publicly verifiable thanks to BLS and the fact it's chaining its random values, its signatures together. And it's fast because the process of the setup is maybe slow, but afterwards you just need the runtime trip of broadcasting the partial signature your node has created, and the Lagrange interpolation of all the partial signature you've got from the other nodes, and that's it, basically. It's also open source, as I said, so you can check it out on GitHub. And it's provided with two examples, a JS, a JavaScript example to run it, as a web app, and a CLI tool to fetch randomness from the nodes and verify the signatures and so on. So I told you about the League of Entropy on one of my first slides. So what is the League of Entropy? Well, it's a bunch of companies and individuals who decided to collaborate together to run the drand nodes and to create a decentralized network of randomness beacons. So who's taking part to the League of Entropy? Well, Cloudflare is, EPFL, obviously Kudowski Security, since I'm here, Protocol Labs, where Nicola is working, University of Chile, and a couple other individual nodes, because some of the researchers involved wanted to run their very own drand node. So what's also really nice with drand is that you can integrate any source of entropy into drand. So for example, Cloudflare is relying on its lava lamps to provide the entropy drand needs. So the node run by Cloudflare, whenever it's requiring any randomness, is taking it from the pool it got from the lava lamps, which is nice. The University of Chile also is using seismic data from Chile, as well as some radio frequency stuff, and so on. So I don't know if you got cool randomness or cool entropy sources, but if you do, well, guess what? You could join, because as I said in one of on the building blocks slide, drand allows for resharing. So what's the idea of resharing is that you got that main secret nobody knows about, and there are new members coming, and maybe old members going out, so you need to reshare the secret nobody knows about. It's a bit of a problem, right? Because you need to rerun the distributed key generation, but if you do so, the secret will change, and what can we do? Well, hopefully there is some scheme. You can check the paper. It was on my building blocks slide, that allows you to reshare that unknown secret using the previous shares into new shares you can give to the new shareholders and so on. And it also allows you to change the threshold value if you need to, and so on. So it's really nice. So if you want to join us, you can. You can just shoot us an email at the leagueofentropy@googlegroups.com. And at some point in the future, we don't know yet when, but we'll send emails to everybody to tell, hey, we are going to do a resharing at some point. So if you've set up your drand node, you can join, and so on. So yeah, shoot us an email if you want to join. So live demo time, right? Nah, I'm kidding. So drand has two interfaces, as I said. It has a CLI tool, but it has also a REST API. So here is a couple examples of how you can use drand. You can simply query any node. So here I'm querying the Kudowski security node using the REST API. So on the top, you can see the query to get the distributed key. So what's the distributed key? It's the public key of the whole group. So it's a public key of the League of Entropy, which allows you to verify the signatures emitted by the group. And when do you need to verify the signatures? Well, whenever you got a new random value, so that's on the bottom, you can fetch the latest public random value. Currently, we're at around 300 and something, because I took the screenshot this morning. And you can see it's training with the previous signature value. So basically, the value of the signature on the bottom is a point on the elliptic curve, and it's signing this round number together with the signature of the previous round. So you got on the screen all the informations you need to verify the signature on the bottom has been emitted correctly by the group. And it's a signature that has been created by all members together, not just one or two, because otherwise it wouldn't verify under the distributed key. A couple caveats, because it's important to keep in mind, drand is producing public randomness. So you cannot and you should not use drand randomness to produce secret keys. You know, you want to encrypt your data using AES. Well, you need to generate a secret key. You don't need a public random value to do so. Also, drand is in beta right now. It's a prototype, so it might not be stable. And I really want to stress that drand is in beta right now, so we don't have any SLAs, you know, like Six Sigma availability or whatsoever. It's not because it's run by Cloudflare and a couple other people that we have high availability, right? So we are just security researchers. We go on vacation. If the couple nodes go down, it's still working because of the threshold signing. But if too many nodes go down, well, at some point we need to restart them or whatsoever. So don't build your high availability service using drand for now. Or maybe do it, but run your very own drand network. So what's coming next? So we would really like to replace the current elliptic curves we are using for BLS by another one, namely BLS 12381, because the current elliptic curve we are using is actually vulnerable to attacks which we were not expecting. It's not brand new attacks. I think it's attacks from 2016 or something like that. And those attacks are actually happening in the extension field onto which the pairing is mapping. So the problem here is that the BN256 has an embedding degree of 12, which is mapping onto an extension field whenever you use your pairing. So that was the line on the bottom when we were verifying the signature. And on these extension fields, the difficulty of breaking the discrete logarithm problem, which is basically what's protecting BLS signatures, the discrete logarithm problem, is not as high as we would have hoped. So what we will do basically is just move away from BN256 to BLS 12381, which is a larger curve with a higher, with a bigger extension field. So it's more difficult to break, basically. Also, we would really like to work on the quality of the drand software because it's currently lacking a bit of unit testing and such things. And so, yeah, a couple of things to do. Building application using drand is obviously something we would really like to do. So I don't know if you want to run a lottery website using drand, go on. And finally, so quantum computers are coming in the next, 50 years? Who knows? So maybe at some point we should consider switching to quantum-safe algorithms. But it's not there yet because we really need the threshold signing, and I'm not aware of any threshold signing algorithm that is quantum-safe for now. So we'll see how it goes, but it's definitely something we need to investigate further. I don't know, maybe using isogenies or lattices, whatsoever. And I think that's it. So a couple random quotes. And yeah. I don't know if you have questions. No questions?
Does anyone have questions? I'll walk the mic over to you.
All right, perfect.
All right, thank you very much.